On number 6, module 9, case 4, we need to, let's see, instruction 6, in cell B12, which if you're like me, you have named depreciated value. Let's see here. B12, use F, B12 on home info, future value. So it says, okay, use the future value function to calculate the future value of the home. So we need to put a formula in here even though we've given it a name. And that is going to be equal FV, which is future value. For those of you who haven't seen me yet this semester, I'm so sorry to hear that. I wish you had. I could, I don't know, I think we'd all be a little more connected and this class would be going more smoothly than it is, but it sounds like most of you are fine. Okay, so now we need to put in the rate because this is what Excel asks us to do. Excel will lead you to the promised land if you just let it. So we want to see the inflation rate, which is in B6, or we could type annual inflation rate. See, there it is because I named it. So you could use that as a formula in the formula, and that helps you remember what you're doing. The annual inflation rate, and N per is number of payments, which makes, because in this assignment everything is calculated yearly, we don't have to do multiplication here. If you were doing months, it would be whatever this is right here, and you would multiply it by 12. But we're not doing that here. We're just doing years to hold because they're doing it on an annual basis. So then we put a comma, we go to the next step, and that is going to be payment, which is PMT, which, if you may remember, sometimes you have to do negative. As I said, you have to use the negative, but okay, so Excel wants payment right here, and here it wants a 0 or a 1 to see if it's going to be at the beginning of the period. Because this is an annual, okay, so now comma, and it wants present value. So I click right there, and then I put close, parenthesis, enter. But see, we have a problem. See how it looks like that? That's not what we want. We want, and this is how I was taught it. I think you can put the minus in several different locations. I was just taught by Professor Bushnell to put it here. It tends to get messy when you put it in the formula. There we go, and there's an annual payment for you. I'm sorry, future value for you. Oh, I see. Okay, got it. So we're back to these error things, and I'm recommending that we just do what I'm going to show you right here. This is an amount that has already been calculated, and it tells you K11 of the depreciation worksheet. Now here's where we ran into those errors, but I suggest we do the following. Put the equal sign, click on this sheet, click on K11, and enter. Now there's a reference there, but have no fear, we will work it out. Let's move on to the next one. The taxable gain on the property is the difference between year 10's future value in cell B12 and its depreciated value in cell B13. So those are going to be right here on this sheet because I've named them. So taxable gain is going to be equal to future value, let's see here, B12, actually, yeah, future value minus depreciated value, which is B13. So you could just type D if you named it, depreciated value right there. And then that way it's a lot easier to understand than B7, B11, hit enter. I understand there's a reference, just bear with me. Step 9, calculate the resale tax based on the tax rate on the sale applied to the taxable gain. That's a fancy and very confusing way of telling you that the resale tax is going to be equal to the amount that we gained here times the tax rate on the sale, which we've named, and look at that. Isn't that lovely? I understand we still have a reference. Bear with me. It'll work itself out. Step 10 is where we're going to resolve our problem. So we want to click on the financial statements worksheet, our problems with the reference and the values. In cell C6, and I did not name these because there's rental income for year 1, year 2, year 3. You could do that, but it's just more work than it's worth in my opinion. Enter 36,000. Nice. Enter. Here's the key. You have to make sure that your cells are formatted as accounting. So let's just do that right now. So if we take all these and you just hold down the shift key and go over here to the, well, let's see. This is the end. I'm not holding down the shift key now, but we clicked on that first cell. We're going to hold down the shift key. And we're going to just go like this. Okay, and so that selected that area. We're going to format that all as accounting. Let's go down here and let's say accounting with no decimal points because we don't need them. It just would make this form look very confusing. And no symbol. Say OK. Okay, so now they're all formatted correctly. The formulas will work. So now we want to extrapolate the income. What an interesting way to put it. I don't think it's necessary to be that fancy, but essentially here's what you need to do. This is where we put the value. We're going to leave that highlighted, and we're going to select all of this and then follow the directions in the book, which is to just go up here. Instead of autofill, we're going to pull down on this series, rows, because it's going to be across the same row, growth, and the value is going to be 1.04. So it'll be the 36,000 plus 4% with each year. Now let's say OK. Ta-da! That is a pretty cool feature. I'm not sure I would have used the word extrapolate, but anyway, there we go. So now it wants us to enter year one values in these other, let's see, property taxes, and then 3,200 maintenance, and 2,500 for miscellaneous. So let's just see if we can do them all at the same time. Okay, so if we go up here and do the same thing, fill, series, growth, and it says 3.5%, so that would be 0.035. And it worked. Fantastic. Now, if this were me and it were my assignment, I would do the total like this. And I would hit my little E up here. Oh dear. Let's see what I did here. Need to see my heading. Oh, depreciation's not in yet. Oops, I skipped a step. Okay, so I'm just going to say the book's really unclear here, but if we go to the depreciation sheet and see right here, present value, well, we know what that is. And I named the cell. I don't know if you did, but if you did, you just type equals PV. And that gives you the $350,000, which is the present value according to this sheet. So then if you notice, everything else filled in, except for right here. But I undid that. This is very confusing the way this is done. Let's do first things first and make sure everything is in the accounting format, because as we all know that affects how formulas go. So okay, and then because these are all in dollars, we're going to do the same thing here. Not currency, never currency. Always accounting, no dollar sign. No decimal points except for payroll and percentage. Okay, good. So now if we put present value here, which is equal PV, which we named the cell from before, fills in everything, but it doesn't fill in this one, and I'm not really sure why. The book is not very clear on this at all, but if we do go here and see these, you'll see that there's a DB, which is declining balance depreciation calculation. Let's just use that same formula in here. But because I named the cells, we're going to have to do it differently. PV, the name, not the function. Salvage value. And then B6 is salvage years. And then B9 is just year 1. I would leave it just as B9. Hit enter. Now let's see here what I did. I accidentally put a multiplication. That doesn't need to be there. Now I think everything will be fine. Okay. So let's see if we just delete these. Let's see if they come out the same if we fill it, because I named the cells. I want the formulas to be the same. It does come out the same. It's back to currency, so we don't want that. Let's see. Accounting. Okay, so that's correct. So let's just see if we can do this. Format painter. And just format paint all these. Woo. Nice. That was very confusing the way it is written in the book, but anyway, that's the way to do it correctly. So now let's go back to step number 10E, where I did the AutoSum. So now if we just fill this down, because we've got the depreciation in there now. Again, I'm so sorry. I apologize for the textbook. It's written very confusingly. I still think it's important to name the cells. And so if you look in each one of these, it is summing them. That should be correct. And now this is just a simple, this is going to be equals the rental income minus total expenses. And then we're just going to fill it. We're going to use an if statement here, just like the book says. Equal if. So the logical test we want to use is if the pre-tax income is greater than 0, comma, then it will be the pre-tax income times the rental income tax rate, which is what I named it. And if it's false, it'll just be 0. Does that work? Let's see. So if we fill it down like this, let's see what happens. Looks good. So now 10H, calculate here. It's going to be this minus this. Enter. And we can just fill down. I'm going to stop the video because I have a size limit and I want to make sure I don't go over it.